Right on the chin. Mamma mia! What a knee! You cannot stand in front of that man. That power is different. It's extraordinary.
Another opponent to
Whoa!
What a head kick!
It's all over!
A spectacular finish, just like that! Headshot, bang! Done!
What's up, everyone? Back with another episode of The Fight Corner. This week, we're going to be taking a look back at the most recent UFC pay-per-view event, UFC 302, Makhachev versus Poirier for the 155-pound belt from Newark, New Jersey at the Prudential Center. We're going to break down the entire main card, prelims, and early prelims. We'll then have a look at who took home the additional bonuses for Fight of the Night and Performance of the Night, wrapping it up with a little look ahead to this week's fight card. Jared Cannonier taking on Nassourdine Imavov from the KFC Yum Center in Louisville, Kentucky. So, without any further ado, let's get into this week's episode. In the main event, we had Islam Makhachev taking on Dustin Poirier for the lightweight belt at 155 pounds. Round 1, Islam staggered Dustin after Dustin landed a nice shot of his own, getting a little cut over the eye of Makhachev. Islam then able to change levels, locked up a single leg and easily took Poirier to the ground, locked up a Kimura and had it in pretty deep, but Poirier did a good job of defending, but only to give up his back, and Islam spends the rest of the round on Poirier's back, looking for short shots and to sink in that rear naked choke. In the second, Poirier throws a naked leg kick early in the round, and Islam catches it and gets really deep in on a single leg, but Poirier defends really well and is able to keep the fight on the feet, where they both start trading shots, and Islam lands a nice knee up the middle and gets in on another single leg, but again Poirier defends it, and Islam is able to land some good shots though after that, and Poirier really trying to work off his jab. And again, Islam gets in on a single leg, but is not able to complete it, and Poirier is able to turn Islam against the cage and land some good shots in close. As I said, both guys having success on the feet. Poirier really went to step on the gas near the end of the round, but Islam answered with a good combination, and Poirier came back with some shots of his own before Islam was able to get Poirier up against the fence, drop into a single leg, and was able to finally complete a takedown in this round to get the fight to the ground and end up on top. In the third, there was a really nice knee from Islam to start the round, followed by a jab and an uppercut and then another knee before getting the fight against the cage and forcing Poirier to give up his back, locking in the body triangle and again looking for short shots and to sink in a choke, and eventually transitioning into the mount. But Poirier does a great job of wall walking and gets out the back door, but did leave his arm behind, and Islam came really close to getting the armbar. But Poirier frees his arm and gets back to his feet and immediately starts going to work. But Islam is keeping up with the striking game of Poirier, catching him with a right hand that really hurt his left eye, and both landing hard shots near the bell. In the fourth, there was a good jab from Poirier to start the round, and some nice exchanges in close from both, each landing nicely to the body, and Poirier stuffs another of Islam's takedowns. Again, both doing really well inside the boxing range, landing good combinations and going to the body as well, and I'm really surprised with Islam's striking and Poirier's takedown defense to this point. Islam eventually lands a hard right hand that stumbles Poirier, but he still has enough to stuff the first takedown attempt and the second before Islam eventually forced Poirier to the turtle position, and he hits a beautiful switch to get the fight back to the feet and immediately lands an elbow that cuts Islam above the left eye, and Poirier then unloads in the clinch with vicious body shots, forcing Islam to break away. and they continue to have exchanges on the feet, with both landing great single shots and punches in combination. And again, Poirier stuffs another of Islam's takedown attempts and even talks to the commentary team while doing it. In the fifth, both start in the final round exchanging punches, and Islam dives on a single leg, but again defended well by Poirier. And Poirier still landing good shots in the clinch, and he lands a good left hand, forcing Islam back. Islam then shoots again for a single leg on the right side of Poirier, nearly sits him down, but Poirier again defends well and gets his right leg away. But Islam immediately grabs onto the left leg, holds it for a second, and then whips Poirier to the ground with it. A very similar takedown that I saw in a Michael Pixley instructional on BJJ Fanatics, if anyone's interested. And a really great job by Islam to recognize that it was going to take a different finish to get Poirier to the ground, and he executed it perfectly, jumping right onto Poirier's back and started looking for the choke, locking up a nasty Darce choke which forced Poirier to tap. And Poirier went out after Islam released the choke, and that must have been on so tight. Islam did a really great job of also locking up the bottom leg of Poirier as well, making it so that he couldn't move away and get his hips in play to really release any of the pressure on that choke. But a really great fight all around. Dustin showed that he still is not done just yet, but he did hint pretty hard at retirement in his post-fight interview, and Islam showed that he could dig real deep and win, even after being cut and having his grappling stuffed. Just a really great fight, and it'll be really interesting to see which direction the UFC goes in the lightweight division. And in the co-main event, we had Sean Strickland taking on Paulo Costa. Costa with some good leg kicks to start the fight. Strickland attacking the body with front kicks, and Strickland caught one of the Costa's kicks and landed two real nice right hands, and finished the round attacking to the body with more front kicks. In the second, again, more front kicks from Strickland, but Costa answers with a hard left and a right hand, and some more hard leg kicks, but Strickland is still continuing with the forward pressure and keeping Costa on the back foot. And a nice 1-2 from Strickland, followed by some more front kicks to the gut, before dropping Costa with a left and a right hand. In the third, both exchanging body shots early in the round. Strickland landed a nice combination and continued the forward pressure again. Costa, trying to remain attacking the legs, had a hard check from Strickland that really hurt Costa, who immediately took a bad step and was in some obvious pain. And more straight shots from Strickland to the head and the body of Costa, who did have some brief flashes in the dying moments of the round, but it's been pretty much one-way traffic in my opinion so far. In the fourth, more Strickland jabs and front kicks to start the round, followed by a lot more forward pressure. In the fifth, Costa doing much better in this round, dealing with the pressure and landing shots of his own. And not that Strickland is slowing down, but his output definitely seems to be lowering in this round. But near the end, Strickland started to put on much more pressure and even dropping Costa off a blocked head kick, and then just went animalistic and started throwing the jumping front kicks until the end of the bell. And we had another kind of scary judging moment here, where it was a split decision, with one judge giving it 50-45 to Strickland, another 49-46 for Strickland, and another judge 49-46 for Paulo Costa, which is, completely insane. I have no idea how you can give 4 rounds in that fight to Paulo Costa. But again, the rightful winner was declared Sean Strickland via split decision. And we also had Michał Oleksiejczuk taking on Kevin Holland. Oleksiejczuk dropped Holland with a left hand off one of Holland's kicks, and Oleksiejczuk followed Holland to the ground, looking to land some big shots and finish the fight. But Holland started throwing up his legs and was eventually able to cinch up an armbar, and it was pretty deep. And Oleksiejczuk tried to step over, but Holland just rolled with it, kept tight on the arm, and Oleksiejczuk was still trying to escape, and it did seem like Holland probably could have put the pressure on at any point to really try to go for the finish. But when Oleksiejczuk still wasn't tapping, Holland really drove into the arm and popped it pretty bad. And you can see on the replay, yeah, his arm was definitely mangled though. But he didn't tap, and Holland kept a hold of that arm still for a little bit longer before Herb Dean finally stepped in to call the fight. And it is a technical submission victory for Kevin Holland via armbar. And in the fight that I think was moved up to the main card from the prelims was Niko Price and Alex Morono. Price gets an early takedown, but Morono has a very aggressive guard and was able to secure an omoplata and uses that to transition to a crucifix. But Price was able to roll through that and look to possibly take Morono's back. But when it got to their feet, it was Morono getting the back of Price and getting the fight to the ground, locking in a body triangle. But when Morono went to move to mount, Price reversed and ended up in Morono's guard. But back on the feet, it was Morono landing the better shots and starting to put the real damage onto Price. In the second, Morono caught Price with a nice right hand, but Price rocked Morono with a beautiful right hand that really staggered him before taking the fight to the ground, where Morono did try to attack with an armbar, but Price was able to get his elbow free and ended up pinning Morono back to the mat, looking for more ground and pound. And Morono was eventually able to work back to his feet, and he slipped out the back to take Price's back, but Price scraped him off the cage and again secured a takedown, looking for more ground and pound towards the end of the round. In the third, both landed in the opening minute, but Morono's shots have little behind them, and Price does seem far fresher in the fight at this point, and he landed a real nice uppercut that staggered Morono, and Price just continued with the forward pressure from there, landing shots and another really nice uppercut, and the round ends with Price screaming at Morono and putting his hands up in victory. And it was indeed a unanimous decision victory, 29-28 for Niko Price on all three judges' scorecards. Kicking off the main card, we had Randy Rude Boy Brown taking on Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Brown doing a real good job of fighting behind his jab and looking for the right hand behind it in the first round. Dos Santos did get a pretty bad looking eye poke, and the ref did stop it, but then decided, no, we're fighting again, and we're doing it right now. Dos Santos then complained of another eye poke, and the ref waved the fight on, which is all very weird. Brown ended the round with a beautiful knee right to the chin of Dos Santos. And in the second, Dos Santos rocked Brown early with a right hand and a left behind it, forcing the fight up against the cage, where Dos Santos looked to start taking the back of Brown, who kept scrambling and was able to make it back to his feet, only to get dumped back down by Dos Santos and have his back taken and a body triangle locked in before Dos Santos started looking for the rear naked choke. Dos Santos did look like he was maybe going to get Brown to tap. He had it over the chin, but it's still, again, a very, very tough position to be put into. But Brown toughed it out. Dos Santos did look like he was planning something with the arm. I mean, potentially even just transitioning into mount. But in that little process, Brown was able to reverse the position, took Dos Santos's back, landed a few shots, and looked for a choke of his own before the round ended, which was a pretty crazy reversal there at the end. And in the third, pretty tame opening to the round until Brown landed a beautiful knee up the middle, cutting Dos Santos on the side of the head, and followed up with using more jabs until Dos Santos was finally able to get a hold of Brown, took the fight to the ground, jumped on his back, looked for a choke, but he didn't really have it, and the clock expired, and this one went to a unanimous decision victory for Randy Brown, 29-28 on all three judges' scorecards. And in the featured prelim, we had Roman Kopylov taking on César Almeida. Good kicks from Almeida to start the fight, attacking high and low. Kopylov did catch Almeida with a left hand and then a 1-2 behind it that really did seem to shake Almeida. After the exchange, in close with both landing really nice kicks to the body, but it was Kopylov going for the takedown and easily getting the fight to the ground and right into side control as well. Almeida did work his way back up to the feet, but he ate 2 right hands in doing so. And Almeida continued his very heavy kick attack, but Kopylov was able to time one of those kicks and barreled a straight left right down the middle that dropped Almeida. And Kopylov didn't follow Almeida to the ground, so the ref stood him back up. But again, Kopylov securing an easy takedown right into side control. Almeida was able to regain his guard, but Kopylov ended the round on top. And in the second, more kicks from Almeida, and Kopylov again finds a counter off those with a right hand this time. And Almeida was able to defend the initial takedown attempt from Kopylov and land some nice shots afterwards before stuffing another one of Kopylov's takedowns. But eventually Kopylov was able to get the fight to the ground when he changed levels off of Almeida's left hand and brought the fight right to the ground again, where he finished again the round on top. And in the third, both having a real strong opening minute, with Almeida landing 2 nice right hands, ending again what was a very competitive opening minute of the third round. But again, Almeida gets taken down off a very simple entry from Kopylov. But when they were on the ground, he did the bare minimum to keep the fight there, and Herb Dean eventually stood them both back up. But again, Almeida was taken down from a very simple entry with little to no resistance, and the fight ends with Kopylov on top in side control. Now this fight also had a bit of a weird score at the end. It was a split decision for Kopylov, 29-28 by one judge, 30-27 for the other, both for Kopylov, and then one dissenting judge had it 29-28 for Almeida. Also on the prelims, we had Jailton Almeida taking on Alexander Romanov in a fight that I'm pretty sure was scheduled to be on the main card. Almeida comes out and shoots a single leg, which Romanov does defend, but Almeida switched to a body lock and completed the takedown with an outside trip, eventually moving to the back and looking for the rear naked choke, which is across the jaw, but you can still easily get the tap from here. Almeida let it go though, but when he got a second chance to get it, he went right under the chin, locked it up, and forced Romanov to tap. And this was a really great bounce back victory for Almeida after that loss to Curtis Blades. Moving down the prelims, we had Joselyne taking on Grant Dawson. Dawson came out flying across the octagon with a knee, but ended up in a grappling situation with Solecki. While he was able to get the fight to the ground, he did have to defend a very tight arm-in guillotine. And even after Dawson defended that, he really wasn't able to start to get his ground and pound going. And Solecki did a great job of breaking down Dawson's posture, controlling his arms, and getting his legs and hips involved with his defense as well. Solecki also cut Dawson with a really nice short elbow from the bottom that really started leaking. It was a deep cut of the left eyebrow. Dawson was able to eventually get some ground and pound off near the end of the round, but that was a pretty close round in my opinion. In the second, Dawson got the early takedown and he was able to control Solecki and did a much better job of getting his ground and pound going, and he dominated on top for the entirety of that round. And in the third, again, Dawson pushes Solecki up against the fence, which allows Dawson to get the easy takedown. Solecki did again try to jump on a guillotine, but Dawson popped right out and just continued where he left off in the second round, with just grinding on top of Solecki, looking for options for ground and pound, and to pass the guard until the round ended. And this ended again in a unanimous decision victory, 30-27 times 2 for Dawson and 29-28 by the other judge. And kicking off the prelim card, we had Jake Matthews taking on Philip Rowe. Good leg kicks from Matthews to start the round, and Rowe landed a really great right hand against the fence, and Rowe was really busting up Matthews with his right hand. But Matthews was also able to have some moments of his own, landing several nice shots to the left side of Rowe's face, causing quite a noticeable mouse and abrasion. And after a brief stop due to a groin strike, Matthews really went at Rowe, smothering him with punches. Rowe did land a good knee in the clinch, but when they broke, Rowe stepped in for a flying knee, but was countered with a nice right hand. And Rowe tried to answer back with a kick, but he slipped, and Matthews pounced on top into side control and ended the round on top. In the second, Rowe got hurt early from some heavy hooks in close from Matthews, but Rowe was able to survive, and they spent the rest of the round exchanging in their preferred distances, with Rowe having success on the outside and trying to counter when Matthews came in, but Matthews more often than not was able to crash the distance and land some heavy strikes on Rowe. And in the third, Rowe goes for the early takedown and gets stuffed hard by Matthews, who ends up on top. But Rowe does a great job of getting his head higher than Matthews, which enables him to reverse the position and end up in Matthews' half guard. Rowe nearly took the back, but got a bit too high, and Matthews was able to slip out and ended up in top half, where he spent the remainder of the round looking to pass, land strikes, and briefly even attempted to lock up an arm triangle. And this one ended in a unanimous decision for Jake Matthews, 29-28 on two of the judges' scorecards and 30-27 on the other. And moving on to the early prelims, we had Gall taking on Bassil Hafez. Hafez lands a nice lead jab to the body and follows it up with an overhand right, and landed the same combination again, but with a left hook on the end of it. Hafez landing more good shots in close, as well as countering Gall, all with a lot of power. Gall did start landing some strikes of his own near the end of the round, even hurting Hafez at one point, and ended that round really starting to build some momentum. In the second, Hafez again finding a home for that overhand right, but Gall replied with a hard 1-2, and Hafez throws the seldom seen Superman punch, and Hafez could be starting to slow down a little bit here. His punches are still very powerful, but they seem to be a little bit slower. And Gall eventually takes the fight to the ground, but Hafez is able to work right back up to his feet, where Gall doubled up on his jab and finished with a hard right hand behind it. When he went for the step-in elbow, Hafez did a really great job of reading the situation, changed levels, and secured the takedown at the end of the round, ending on top. And the third, again, a real nice jab from Gall and a right hand behind it, with Hafez slightly getting the better of it, hurting Gall with an uppercut and forcing Gall to retreat back. And Hafez followed him, but he got dropped with a straight right that sent him down to the canvas. It was a bit of a flash knockdown as he bounced right back up, and they continued to exchange good shots on the feet, and Gall shooting a takedown with an outside trip, but wasn't able to hold him down. And again, Hafez works his way back up to his feet, where they continue to exchange, getting in close and landing some real good shots, both hurting each other. And now it's Hafez who goes for the takedown and nearly moved into mount, but Gall was able to recover half guard and did a great job getting back to his feet as well. And on the feet, Gall hit Hafez with a right hand followed by a left that stumbled him, and they kept going at it for the remainder of the round, with both landing real good shots. But again, it was Hafez that goes in to take the fight to the ground, where he ended up in a real dominant position in top half with head and arm control. But at the 10-second clacker, Hafez just decided to basically stand up and said, "Let's go." And they both threw down for the last few seconds in what was a really great, entertaining fight. And it was taken as a unanimous decision victory for Hafez, 30-27 on two judges' scorecards and 29-28 on the other. We also had Ailín Pérez taking on Joselyne Edwards. In the first round, Pérez hit Edwards with a beautiful Haragoshi off the cage. While Edwards was able to get back up to her feet, she was immediately taken down again. But from there, Edwards was able to elevate Pérez and roll through and end up in Pérez's half guard. And then Pérez reversed Edwards. And when Pérez went to move into mount, Edwards reversed her again in just a really crazy grappling exchange. But when they did get back to their feet, Pérez took Edwards down and this time was able to control her from the top, moving into mount and landing some strikes. And from being in that top position, she did land a really nice elbow. But again, Edwards was able to sweep, get to the top position, and that's where they ended the first round. In the second, Pérez came out swinging, and Edwards landed some nice counter right hands as well. Pérez then went for a takedown, but Edwards used a guillotine to defend and forced Pérez to abandon her takedown and address the choke. But a very deliberate headbutt caused a stop in the action and brought the fight back to the feet. And when they resumed, Pérez cracked Edwards with a spinning back fist that dropped her to her butt. And Pérez stepped off to get the fight back to the feet. And she looked for the same strike again, but this time she seemed to hesitate and kind of stopped halfway through, which allowed Edwards to get into a clinch with double underhooks. But Pérez just kind of shucked her to the ground. Edwards tried to reverse, but ended up giving her arm in a real vulnerable position. But she was never able to get her top leg around the head, which allowed Edwards to then get on top and end the round in Pérez's guard. In the third, after an extended clinch battle against the cage, Pérez hits Edwards again with a beautiful Haragoshi. But she again is not able to control Edwards, who herself nearly wrestled up right away to a single leg. They did have some nice exchanges on the feet for the remainder of the round, with Edwards seeming to land the better strikes, but Pérez did secure another takedown and ended the round on top. And this ended up being a unanimous decision victory for Pérez, 29-28 times 2 and 30-27 from the other judge. Kicking off the card, we had Mitch Raposo taking on André Lima. And André Lima with the big weight miss, coming in at 130 for the 126 limit. Some good hard leg kicks from Lima to open up the fight, and that was really the story of the first round. Lima destroying the lead leg of Raposo. Even when Raposo switched stances to protect his lead leg, it did not matter. Raposo was moving pretty good in the second round though, even though he had suffered those brutal attacks to the legs and continued attacks to the legs and to the body from Lima. Raposo was able to finally get to the legs of Lima and easily got Lima to the ground, but he wasn't able to control him, and Lima did use a fence grab to get back to his feet. In the third, Lima continued to attack the legs and the body of Raposo. And Raposo was just not able to get into his distance to be effective with either his grappling or at least to smother Lima with some punches and getting close. To get him moving backwards, we can't use his kicks as effectively. And Lima even knocked Raposo down with a leg kick near the end of the round. And I had this as an easy unanimous decision victory for Lima, but the judges came back with a split decision. 30-27 times 2 for Lima and 29-28 for the one judge for Raposo. I don't even know what round you would give him, to be perfectly honest, but crazy scorecards again from MMA judges. With the fight of the night and performance of the night bonuses, Islam Makhachev doubles up and takes home $100,000 for fight of the night against Dustin Poirier, and also a performance of the night bonus as well. And Kevin Holland takes home a performance of the night bonus for that brutal armbar finish on Michał Oleksiejczuk. And we'll be back with another episode this week of a breakdown of last weekend's fight card from Louisville, Kentucky. Jared Cannonier taking on Nassourdine Imavov. That does it for another episode of The Fight Corner. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in and showing your support. It really does mean a lot. And of course, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It all goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot. So until next time, Peace.